Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. We are back with another talk video. This week's topics are the following. We're going to touch upon the state of the galaxy, the Mandalorian character kits for Kuiil and IG-11. Then we're going to shift into Galactic Legends, just give some of my initial thoughts on Jedi Master Luke and Sith Eternal Emperor. Then transition into 6 mods, now that we've had a couple weeks of galactic challenges to accumulate mod slicing materials, and then wrap up as we usually do with the gearing of my roster, but also touch upon the character login and Grand Arena summary from the schedule that was announced for the month of November. So first up is the state of the galaxy. We're not going to spend too much time on this. We're just going to extract the key information. So this first part that I've highlighted here strongly alludes that we're going to see several more characters from the Mandalorian show, which is also emphasized in a Reddit post that I'm going to highlight in a moment. But we are clearly in a Mandalorian era that we can see with the app icon that has been changed. And also now that we're a season into the show, it's clear, I think, for CG, for EA, that Mandalorian is something that the Star Wars community is very excited about and loves. So the next portion here is on Kuiil and IG-11, just kind of introducing the characters and the kits, emphasizing Baby Yoda, which is great and we're all happy to see, but we'll touch upon that in the next portion of the video when we break down the kits. Then they wrap up here just saying that CG has been on some podcasts talking a little bit more about things coming up in the game. Reddit user GWG did a great service to the community by summarizing that key information from the podcast. So I'm going to link his Reddit post down below. But some of the key information that comes up from this Reddit post is CG does emphasize that we are in that Mandalorian era, that the 5 Mandalorian characters work together as a team, which is a little interesting. Karga has bounty hunter synergies, but not the scoundrel synergies. So I'm kind of curious how he's going to work. Obviously, Kuiil does share stats, and IG-11 does have those bounty hunter synergies, but I'd like to see how this Mandalorian team works. It's definitely one of the things I'll be testing quickly. Then the other key information here is, I think this point here about Kuiil being the first light side character to apply shock is very interesting, partly because the developer insights really emphasize this point over and over again, and how they write about the kits for both Kuiil and IG-11 keep up bringing this up, which just tells me there's going to be more with shock in the future, because right now Kuiil's the only one. They bring up how Kuiil, they originally wanted him to ride a blurg, which I was also hoping for. It makes sense that he just physically won't be able to do that in the game because of how large the blurg is. Then the best synergy they talk about is with L337. When we talk about mechanic savvy in his kit in the future, that it will be clear why. One sad point is IG-11 not having the self-destructive capability, which I was hoping to see, just because it's a very iconic part of his storyline, an important part of his character arc, but they wanted Yoda with him. But the way I was kind of always imagining Yoda in this game was with like a journey release of like Din Djarin, Mando in the Beskar armor, and having Yoda as a summon. That was kind of what I was hoping for. And then this next portion here just touches upon the release. One of the things that they emphasize is that we are on an accelerated release for these characters, and they're hinting at a journey or legendary release, which just is not surprising. I was expecting a legendary or journey release, but it's something that I'm definitely going to be accelerating my pursuit of, knowing that they're considering it as accelerated, or at least these character releases are accelerated. Then they touch upon just announcing that there will be some future information coming soon, so hopefully that road ahead that we mentioned a moment ago is going to be pretty substantive. And then they talk about how Bill Burr character won't be released in the game, which I'm wondering just probably means he didn't sign a release for his likeness, so that they don't have the ability to put him in the game. So back to the State of Galaxy. To wrap up, the character release schedule is going to be done through the Galactic Challenges throughout the month of November, with Kuiil the first 2 weeks, IG-11 the second 2 weeks. At first, when they said this, I was a little worried, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think this is great. The marquee events aren't really fun. They're more just busy work within the game. This way, we're doing two things at once. The only downside is that we lose, or at least late game players lose, Shard Shop currency. But I'm happy to see the characters released this way. The shards are only going to be in the first 2 to 3 tiers, and they won't require completing the feats. So we're still just being given these characters as long as you can play Galactic Challenges. And then the post wraps up here with just a reminder that the 5th anniversary is coming up. They have this portion here that has been struck out, where they're talking about the in-game economy is going to possibly be changing. Hopefully we'll be hearing more about that in the road ahead, but that could potentially be good news, but it's usually a give and take with that kind of things. And then they emphasize here that the next month the road ahead will be forthcoming. Breaking down these kits, first up is Kuiil. I'm glad he is the first of the 2 of the characters to be released, because one of the portions of his kit is that he is going to be sharing stats, in the recent releases of Mon Mothma and 3 Baka really show how powerful those kinds of abilities are. One of the characters that's really going to be benefiting is Mando, because he is super fragile, and Kuiil is now going to really beef up his survivability. Touching upon the kit, we have a basic here, Engineer's Gambit, which is an attack that inflicts burning. Special one is Voltaic Shot. This applies just a bunch of debuffs, good for control. We're going to get a 1-turn stun. We're going to get speed down and shock, and then a conditional component where if the target has burning, they get exposed. If they had shock, they spread shock, kind of like Nuke Gunray's Extortion. It'll be going to the lowest health character. The second special, I Have Spoken. This is going to be a heal where health and protection is going to be recovered on all allies, 20% for normal allies, and it's up to 40% for Scoundrel and Droid allies. There will also be turn meter gain, and then the big portion here is this ability Mechanic Savvy, which I'm assuming is going to be one of like those blue buffs. Mechanic Savvy is going to give Scoundrels crit chance, crit damage, defense penetration, and droids are going to get increased offense, plus a revive. And that revive is probably going to work exactly like Hera's revive, where only when the character has Mechanic Savvy will they get revived. Just like with Hera, only when they have that blue buff do they get revived. Then the unique with the Zeta Frontier Wisdom, this is the sharing stats ability. Also, there's synergy with shock, so every time characters are being inflicted with shock, there is protection recovery. And then Kuiil and IG-11, their synergy is granted here with some health steal, potency. Kuiil can't be crit or stunned, and then IG-11 recovers protection when he is critically hit. So here's how I like to break down kits. I like to extract some of those keywords from CG's breakdowns and reveals so that I can really kind of clearly see what these kits do without being distracted by all that extra information that CG gives us. So the basic is an attack with a debuff. The first special is really mostly a control ability. The second special, I Have Spoken, is a heal, turn meter gain, and then stats being increased on the characters. And then the unique is that big team sharing of stats, protection recovery, and then a secondary ability for IG-11 to recover additional protection when he's critically hit. And as we'll see in a moment, IG-11 has even more ability to recover protection in his kit, which potentially makes him and the team very tanky. Now we have IG-11 and Baby Yoda. First ability here, the basic sensory advantage. This is an attack that also attacks a second enemy who is the weakest. If all the enemies are debuffed, IG-11 will be recovering protection. And that's where some of this tankiness comes in, because also with his unique, I believe, he is going to be assisting off of counters. So this basic has the potential to be going off on a regular basis and recovering that protection. The first special here, Function Protect. This is an AoE attack that inflicts tenacity down. If there's shock or damage over times on the field, those enemies will be getting damage a second time, and then IG-11 taunts afterwards. The second special, Nurse Droid Protocol, is a heal where the target ally is going to gain 30% of IG-11's max health, and everyone else gets half of that. If IG-11 is taunting, he's going to be getting health steal up and retribution. Droid and Scoundrel allies will then gain Foresight, and then the unique Zeta, Child's Favor. Start of the battle, IG-11 will be gaining max protection off of his max health. If Kuiil is on the field, that amount is doubled. So they should be paired up all the time. And then on top of that, IG-11 gets a pre-taunt, which is fantastic. I'm happy to see pre-taunts all of the time. Then here's the portion here that I mentioned with the basic. When another Scoundrel or Droid ally attacks during an enemy turn, which basically means counters. If a Droid or Scoundrel is countering, IG-11 will be assisting, but that's also attacking two characters because that basic hits the target enemy plus a weakest ally. And then at the start of IG-11's turn, he's going to be dispelling all of the Droid and Scoundrel allies, and then for each debuff dispelled, a damage over time will be inflicted onto a random enemy, and that synergizes back to his special where the damage will be increased on his AoE ability when a dot or that shock is on the field. And again, here's that breakdown. So the basic, we have an attack plus recovery. That first special is an AoE attack, debuffs, plus additional damage. The second, and also a taunt, that second special is recovering health for the target ally, and then everybody else gets recovered health. And then if he's taunting, there is buff gains with House Steal and Retribution, and then Foresight for Droid and Scoundrel allies. And then the unique, that is the gain of max protection and max health with Kuiil. There's the pre-taunt, the assist off of counters, dispelling debuffs, and then inflicting damage over time for each of those debuffs dispelled. Now with the Galactic Legends, it's been a couple weeks since they were released. SLKR still has the best all-around viability. Sith Eternal Emperor is very good in light side geos, or dark side geos rather, but I'm not sure how much that is very important since people aren't struggling as much in dark side geos. So that's one point for Jedi Master Luke, where he is going to be helping out a lot there. In terms of which of these characters I'm going to be going for, I mean, I guess I should be considering all four, but I'm closest on Jedi Master Luke and Sith Eternal Emperor. So for me, the tiebreaker is light side geos, where I do want to have some stronger teams. So Jedi Master Luke is likely where I'm going to be going, but I am leaving a little bit of time to see if these kits are tweaked a little bit. Like, let's remember how SWGOH was adjusted after a couple months. Here's where I am with the Sith Eternal Emperor requirements, a little bit further off, but not unachievable. Plus, most of these characters are very easy to gear up, except for Royal Guard. Royal Guard is a monster. And then here's where I am on Galactic Legends Rey, like still extremely far off, and then also extremely far off with the SWGOH requirements. So just because of how close I am, it kind of just makes sense for me to go for Jedi Master Luke. Now with the 6-dot mods, I want to just touch on a couple things. One thing I was hoarding forever were the mod slicing materials to go from 5-dot mods to 6-dot mods. I was convinced they were going to be part of slicing 6-dot mods up to the higher tiers, and I was wrong. So these just 1,500 of each of these materials. I've got 600 now of these materials. This was even higher. I think I was closer to 2,000 on some of these materials that I had hoarded up. But I guess the good part is now I can freely apply these and start slicing up a lot of these mods very quickly that I have those materials hoarded up. Plus, I've kind of dropped down the threshold for which mods get sliced up. Before, it was only if that mod would get sliced up to a plus 20 speed or higher would I slice it up. Now that's not the case. I might be going down to like plus 15 speed, but I don't want to lose too many, especially with the Mando characters likely having an event. I want to make sure I can give Gear 11 characters and below some of my good mods. I was very happy with how CG announced the 6-dot mod slicing would work. There's a maximum amount of times you can proc a secondary. So if you had a god mod of speed having sliced 5 times, you don't have to keep chasing speed, and they've given a catch-up mechanic for some of those other mods that didn't proc 5 times on speeds. You now have additional chances to create more god mods essentially. So a mod I have like this that procced 4 times on speed at plus 18, I have a chance for a mod like that to be procced up 1 more time and get into that god mod territory. So this one here with 4 is a mod I can have under consideration for doing. What you don't want to do is don't slice up any of your speed arrows. There's no way for these to get any better. What you're looking for more are mods like this triangle here that speed has procced 3 times. There's a chance for 2 additional times it could be increased if I were to slice that one up. For the moment though, I'm still going to be hoarding these materials, and I'll probably do them with a mod slicing video in the future. And before we jump into the gearing of my roster for Grand Arena, I do want to talk quickly about the calendar for the month of November. The big thing here is Boba Fett is a login character. I mean, obviously, this is all going to relate back to Mandalorian, but Boba Fett being the choice is very interesting. I'm not going to be talking spoilers or getting into a lot of the rumors for the season, but the fact that it's Boba Fett does raise some interesting questions of some future releases within game. The next Grand Arena is 3v3 Bounty Hunter themed. Last month I broke down some of the key buffs and debuffs that were related to feats. I was going to do it again for this month, but with applying thermal detonators, getting crit damage up 20 times, it's very simple for bounty hunter kits. So there's not going to be the same problems with if you need to plan around getting them. You're very likely just going to end up getting all of those feats. The tricky part for this Grand Arena is going to be more of these combos of having to use Aura Singh and Boba Fett, or using Zam Wesell and Jango Fett, Cad Bane and Embo, like Han Greedo. Like, there's a lot of these things that if you go after these kinds of feats like I do, it's messing up your teams and your synergies that you'd like to have. Like, using Night Sisters last month was a major annoyance because Night Sisters are one of the defensive teams I like to go for, and I was breaking up my defensive strategy throughout the month to make it work. Now I'm going to be doing the same thing with bounty hunters and using bounty hunters that I don't have geared up, like Zam Wesell, Aura Singh, Embo. I don't have them ready to go. Then there's this weird one here with Jango, Rex, and Cody. My Cody's not geared up. So there's a number of trickier feats to go for that are not going to synergize well with a basic bounty hunter team if you don't have those other characters geared up like I don't. So it might take finding some weird combinations to take advantage. So that gives you an idea of how I'm keeping track of my Galactic Legends progress, but I'm going to set that aside for now. What I'm prioritizing this week are those critical relics that I've been putting off since before Jedi Knight Luke, while I was working on his requirements. Now I want to really beef up my Grand Arena team and kind of fill in all those weak spots that I have when I was delaying all of those important relics. So Malik, he's going up. And then Jolie, finally getting to Jolie, so I will have more reliable options with those Grievous counters, because strong Grievuses I can't handle right now. So now that will no longer be as much of an issue. I'll bring in their relic levels later. They'll probably go to relic 2 or relic 3 for now. Next character I'm going to bring up to gear 12, arguably a little bit more of a waste, but I want to have her geared up. Plus, you'll see after I do this, I will have accomplished this. 10 crystals. So now those characters are now deprioritized, and they're going to be replaced by other characters. I am bringing Piet up to gear 9. I'm expecting he's going to need Kairos at the next gear level. So he's not going to be, I'm not going to give him these right now. I want to keep saving those up more for relics, less than for him. And then I'm going to want to bring up some new characters for my relic priorities. Palpatine's close, but I really want to have Jango relicked. So he's moving up. Palpatine, I mean, it would help, but it's fine. And then Brood Alpha I want to get up. And actually, even more than Brood Alpha, I want Daka relicked. So that's going to be the gearing that I'm going to do. Basically what you see here are the relics I want for Grand Arena. Jedi Knight Luke is multiple things, like Grand Arena, Galactic Legend requirements. Mandalorian, I want those characters geared up. Cardian's the last one that I have left. That's going to help on my Mon Mothma team, but it's also going to be keeping me prepared for anything that might happen in the future with those Mandalorian characters. Like I was saying, I'm expecting them to be used for something at some point. 3PO Chewie, I mean, we got Jedi Master Luke, Piet, we got Sith Eternal Emperor, and we got Supreme Leader Kylo, and we have GL Rey. Cody is on there to just get myself kind of staged and ready for light side geos, since there's that node he's required for, but he's not going to see relics for a long time. Now the last thing is, I am considering dropping some Zetas. I have a bunch saved up. And I was considering Ezra. Piet would be another option. Ezra's good, but I'm just... The more I read this Zeta, like the 50% damage is nice, the turn meter is nice. I know it's not a bad Zeta, but I don't know, I'm not convinced it's that much of a difference maker. Definitely a good one, but it's also definitely a luxury. But I have 200 Zetas saved up. We're going to wrap it up there. I was very happy with the first episode of Mandalorian. It's already probably my first or second favorite episode up to this point. I'm looking forward to 3v3 Grand Arena coming up next week, and the release of these characters, and the road ahead coming up. So it's looking to be a very good month of November. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This has been Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.